Colonel Rohit Dev Saab, who's a defense expert, joining us on the show on the phone line. Colonel Saab, as you look at the entire, issue panning out, you're taking at a lot of world capitals taking a stand, but there are still a lot of world capitals who do not want to say anything just yet. They are fence sitters. They also say that dialogue is the best way forward, sir. What is your assessment of where is this headed towards, and what should we, as in New Delhi, be doing, and should we be equally concerned right now?
I think first let me comment on the stance of Israel. And it stems from the fact that their Prime Minister Netanyahu went to the UN recently. And in no uncertain terms, he has castigated the role of UN. And this has been simmering for a couple of years now. And last year as well, when the attack on 7th October happened, we saw that how much time and a number of hours it took for the UN to even comment upon that brutal atrocity committed by the Hamas on Israeli citizens. And then when the Iranian thing happened recently, that is yesterday, there was no major comment, and it was such an ambiguous statement made by Mr. Antonio Guterres. I think it calls for condemnation. And I think we can take this, sort of a reaction a step backward. The funding of the UN is something which is mandated by the UN Charter, and many countries are giving that fund. I believe when you look at UN today or a WHO, you have people who are actually on some kind of a negative payroll of the deep state who are prompted. So I'm not too sure how people get funded individually, but I'm quite sure any sane person, and like you said that, people say, let's have dialogue. You can only speak to somebody who makes sense. You can't speak to people who are insane, who have this Islamist radical, indoctrination in their blood. You cannot talk to them. How do you talk to such people? I mean, we have seen journalists in our country who have, a perception of what's happening in Palestine or happening in Gaza or happening in Iran or Lebanon. And I'm very sad to observe that most of that stems from their religious beliefs. It is lacking common sense. How can something justify the killing of innocent children, baking them in ovens, and then you come out and say that Israel should stop? I mean, Iran did something yesterday, right? And there has to be a reciprocal action which is, measurable, and which can actually go a little beyond measurable from the Israeli side, because Israel has the right to defend itself. So I think the world should not sermonize. And believe you me, I saw an international news agency. They have sent a warning at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning when people are sleeping. Yes. I mean, people should realize there's a war on. In war, you can't go by the semantics of what is being bombed. People taking shelter in schools as terrorists. And then when the school is bombed, they create a story. So all this stitching of perception around the entire war, whether it's Ukraine and more effectively in Israel today, I don't think so. A person like me who has got military acumen and also strategic thought can blame Israel completely at all. In fact, I support Israel in the mission to defend itself. So I think the rationale should come, and India, you are very clear. Dr. Jaishankar has just made a statement today to say that India is willing to mediate between Iran and Israel. So while our geopolitical intent to be, sort of neutral individually, bilaterally in our trade with maybe Iran or our strategic relationship with Israel is concerned, we are willing to mediate. But the point is that even after all that mediation, if you get this, frenzy boiled down as well in temperatures, what will happen after the next 1 year, half a year, 2.5 years? Because if the Islamic Caliphate is going to go on that binge to reduce Israel eventually, then I'm afraid this entire psychic nature will prevail. And they will do much more harm to the world peace and prosperity in the future as well.
I think, Colonel Saab, you make a lot of fair points. And these are, I think, points of discussion that will be discussed. We look forward to talking to you again, sir. Thank you so much right now for speaking to us on Times Now and helping us understand why it's important in such times to remember, take a stand. But as we continue forward this conversation and this coverage, I also want to get in our colleague Srinjoy here, who's been tracking, he's been working a lot of phone lines trying to get you what possibly could happen. How should we here in the country, Srinjoy, be looking at this entire conflict? We've seen some very strong words that have not just come in from the Prime Minister earlier, where he said that terrorism is something that concerns all of us. On the other side, even the MEA, the statement followed by the response that has come in from Dr. S. Jaishankar, That's very clear. It's unequivocal in the fact that we stand with Israel, but we still believe that there could be some scope for a dialogue, Shinjoy.
Yes, undoubtedly. First of all, what Jaishankar has said is that what happened on the 7th of October was clearly terrorism. Now, if you face terrorism, you have to act against it. About that, there is no doubt, and there is no question about not fighting terrorism. He also said, though, it has to be said that humanitarian laws have to be followed. When he said that, it's a clear suggestion that these huge casualties in Gaza, 40, 50,000 people, including women and children, that's an area of concern. So that is something that has also been said. Again, the External Affairs Ministry has said that dialogue is the only way out. Diplomacy and dialogue are the only ways out. And the only way you can stop this bloodletting that has only just begun the way it looks is through dialogue and diplomacy. So that is India's position, that this has to stop. There has to be a ceasefire. People have to sit down. People have to iron out their problems.